So what we are going to see now is we are going to set up a public hosted zone. I have an account with the GoDaddy. I have some domain names registered in my GoDaddy account, some of them. So we will selectively use one of the domain names for sending traffic to my EC2 web servers. So the first thing is we need an VPC, which is having public, private, and load balancers, and we need a web server, which is doing web server functionality. And once we set that up, then we can come to our public hosted zone in Route 53 and get the DNS server IP addresses or domain names and put it into our GoDaddy credentials. So we'll see one by one, and let's go to our console and start building our architecture there. So I'm just going to head over to my console, and here I'm just going to quickly I have set up a VPC here. As you can see here, Route 53 demo VPC. Once again, this VPC has a spread across multiple availability zones. I am in Mumbai region, so it is spread across AC1 and AC2. So public, private, and spare, public, private, and spare. And it has the internet gateway. It has the security groups set up, and the VPC, in other words, is ready. So the next step here for us is starting our web server. So I'm just going to go over and start my one single web server here. I'm going to launch an instance. Like we are always used to, we are going to connect it with our S3 account. We are going to use an IAM role for that, pick up some files from S3 and set up our web server as soon as possible. So VPCs, I'm ensuring it is my custom VPC, and I'm going to ensure that I'm going to use a public subnet, AC1 public subnet, and this is going to be a web server, so I will need an public IP. So let me enable a public IP. Or instead of doing, okay, let me enable a public IP here. What I thought of doing is assigning an elastic IP, but anyway, let us not do that now. Let us add the role, and let me quickly copy and paste the advanced details. So let me just go ahead. I don't know where I kept the code. Let me quickly go ahead and check the code itself. So now that we have set up our advanced details field with our code, which will copy some files from my web server and set up my web server, let us go ahead and click on add storage. Nothing here. Oh, I was supposed to click next, and click next, add tags. I'm just going to call it Route 53 demo web server. I'm just going to add my company name also. So I'm going to call it 01, configure security group, and select the public security group here, port 80. So by now you must have seen this at least 10 times, so you should be able to do it on your own in the future. So for next time onwards, if I need a web server, I'm going to reuse an existing instance, and I'm not going to show that in the interest of time, because we have seen it enough number of times that has been set up. So this is the public IP address. So let me share that with anybody watching it with me. So anybody wants to check it out whether the server has been online. So go ahead and put it into your browser window, and it should come up online anytime now, because the server is still spinning, and you can see here it is in pending state. It should come online anytime. Yeah, there we go. You can see here the private IP address of the server, and that is the default web page that we always use for our demos. So the first step is done. We have got our VPC, we have got our web server done, and what I'm going to do now is go to Route 53. For that, let me just duplicate this page, and let me just search for Route 53. It's taking its own sweet time. So once again, if you don't have any domains registered, it usually pops up this screen, if not the previous screen that you are seeing. So click on Get Started, and the first thing is creating a hosted zone. It is like a container for your domain name, under which you can have multiple records. So click on Create Hosted Zone, and for this we need to have a public domain name. So public domain name can come from your DNS register. Let me repeat that. Any domain name that you have registered in AWS itself, or you might have done it in something like GoDaddy itself. So in my case, I have some domain names registered in GoDaddy, and I've already logged into my account. And in particular, I'm just going to use a domain name called nownirman.net, as you can see here. As of now, this website should not work in theory, because we have not appointed it to any working website. So if I put it in my browser, I'm sharing it with you, it should not theoretically work. So I have this domain name owned by me, and there are DNS servers configured. As you can see here, there is a DNS name servers configured to my previous AWS setup. So these AWS servers are not there anymore, these DNS servers, so that it is not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hosted zone for nownirman.net, and once AWS creates a DNS servers for me, I'll take those domain names and come here and use this button saying change and update it to my latest configuration. So that is what we are going to do now. So let's go to our Route 53 click on create hosted zone, and it will prompt you with this window, and I'm going to say nownirman.net. Remember, I'm not going to put a www. That means that I'm going to create a root domain. If you're going to put or root domain or apex domain, it is called apex. It means, in other words, it's the top of the level. So if I need www, something like, there are two ways. This is without www, and if I want to go to my browser and type www.nownirman.net, that also should work, because nowadays www is not mandatory. So you can have you need to set up two rules for that. So as of now, both are not working. Let me go ahead and set up the root domain. So I'm just going to give the comment as Valaxy demo for Route 53 public hosted zone. You can give anything custom you want. And remember, yesterday we were doing the demo, or the previous time we did it, we chose the private hosted zone for VPC. This time we are going to choose internet, so that means public hosted zone. So choose that option, and we click on the create button, and it is going to set up my DEM servers, SOA records, and NS records. So there we go. You can see here there are two default records created whenever you create a hosted zone. So there are 4 name servers created for me. I'm just going to copy this and put it into a notepad file, so that we can quickly edit it and update in my GoDaddy account. I think I can copy it better from here. Yeah. So let me just go ahead and copy that. Let me remove the dot as well in the end. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my GoDaddy account, and GoDaddy is a very simple, straightforward. I'm not going to do a demo on how to use GoDaddy. If you register your domain, under domains, you will have all the domains, and if you click on all domains, it will list the multiple domain names or the only one that you have, so that you can click on the one that you want to administer or do a DNS management. And once you come here, you can click on this change button, and it will ask you whether you want to use the default GoDaddy DNS servers or custom DNS servers. So in this case, I want to forward the traffic from GoDaddy to AWS, so I'm going to choose Amazon. So I'm just going to quickly delete all of them and copy paste the ones that we got just now. So just by copy pasting this or setting up my name servers, it is not my Nownirman server is not going to work. And the reason for that is we have not created a record set, or in other words, we did not point it to our web server. So it is going to take some time for the propagation to work, and then it is going to take some time for our 1 more minute for us to create the record set itself. Then only we will be able to set it up. There seems to be an error. Let me just quickly read it. Some updates require confirmation. Yeah, this update most probably will not require a confirmation, so I shouldn't have to really worry about it. So this takes into effect usually within 5 to 10 minutes. So let us go to my hosted zone and create a record set. So the first record set that I'm going to create is a alias. So remember I said I have created a root level or apex level domain record set that is nownirman.net pointing to this DNS server. So what should I do when somebody types www? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an alias or a CNAME. Either way you can do that. So click on CNAME here, and you see here it says what is the CNAME that I want to point to. So I'm going to say it should point to nownirman.net. So what happens is somebody types www.nownirman, it is going to redirect to nownirman.net. So it is cyclic. So I have to always worry about configuring my nownirman only, so that always the name server has to point it to one location and www will point it to the other location. So I'm going to create another apex record for nownirman itself. Okay, not this one. Yeah, this is one. I'm going to point it to my web server now. I'm just going to collect my web server IP address from EC2. Let me click here. My web server is running on this IP address. So I'm going to copy that and put it into my value field. And I'm just going to use a simple routing field. I don't have to do complex latency based all those things. But go ahead and read the documentation for each one of them and spend some time on understanding what the difference between all of them. And there is interesting discussions. People use them appropriately for different reasons. So go ahead and widen your knowledge by reading some of those things. So now we have an apex record or a record, and then we have a CNAME record. So www will also work. So we are set now. All I'm going to wait for some time for the domain record to propagate. If you just type it in the browser, it should start working once the propagation is complete. So you see here, if you just, I think the propagation is completed. So if I go ahead and type www.nownirman.net and just press enter, it loads up my web server. So this way, I have routed the traffic from GoDaddy to AWS, Route 53 service, and from Route 53 service to my web server. So this way, this is how a public DNS works. You can have your own domain name like myfavoritewebsite.com and point it to EC2 server in this case. And of course, you can point it to other services also like S3 or ELB or CloudFront also. So if you want to do some of those things, what you do is all you have to do is click on create a record set and click on create an alias. And once you do the alias, as you can see here, there is a friendly advice here and what are the things that you can configure here. Your CloudFront, your ELB, and then your S3, all of those things can be configured here. And if it is already pre-configured, if any of them is available, automatically the service will pick it up and show it for you. In this case, as of now, I don't have any targets. Let us say I created an application load balancer like we did it in the previous video. If that is available, it will show it here, and all you have to do is just click on that and it will automatically pick it up. So that is how you point your domain name to a load balancer in AWS and make sure that you are able to route the traffic to a fault tolerant load balancer sitting in front of your multiple web servers or an auto scaling group. So that is how simple it is to set up public hosted zones in AWS. When you're talking about AWS resources in the cloud, there are multiple resources like an EC2 server, you have an auto scaling group, and you have an load balancer, you have some EBS volumes, you have an RDS. It is quite some time. You need to know what is the current status of that, whether my EC2 is performing well or whether my database is reachable. and what is the size of my whether the S3 bucket has had a new items uploaded by my third-party providers, or sometimes you want to understand whether something has happened in your environment which shouldn't be happening. Say, for example, somebody deleted EBS volume without your knowledge. You want it to be notified of that. So for all these mechanisms, you need to have a monitoring service. And for Amazon, is providing a default monitoring service along with all other services. So today we are going to spend some time on trying to understand what are the monitoring options that you get in AWS, and how you are going to use them or leverage them to monitor your resources in the cloud. So this is the agenda for the next few minutes. So we are going to see a service called a Simple Notification Service, or SNS, and we are going to see what is CloudWatch and what is CloudTrail, how to use them, and how to build a demo using them. So the first topic, Simple Notification Service, or Amazon SNS as it is called quite often. This forms as part of the application notification service. You can think of it as synonymous with the notifications that you get in your mobile phone from WhatsApp or Google or Instagram. When somebody makes changes or makes some updates, or if there is an offer from Amazon or Flipkart, you get the notification in your mobile phone. So those kind of services indirectly use something like SNS on the background to push notifications to millions of devices who are expecting the deals to come to them at the earliest. So these are one of the easiest notification messages, that is push notification as it is called, because the publisher or the website like Amazon or Flipkart is pushing the messages to the end customers like you and me. So these are called as the push notifications, and it is very easy to set up, and it scales automatically depending upon the demand. You can use SNS for sending a few messages to a few thousand to a few million. So you don't have to worry about the scale on the background. Amazon ensures the scale part of it, and you can get failure notifications. You can get retry options. So you can ensure that only people who are subscribed for it are getting the notifications, instead of randomly firing at all email addresses that you might have. So SNS gives you a lot of flexibility on whom you want to target, at what time you want to target, and how to target them at which device you want to target them. In other words, whether you want to send the notification through email, or you want to send a notification to a mobile device, or you want to send a notification to an app in particular. So there are multiple ways or multiple levels you can target them. So the workflow or the data flow for SNS looks something similar to this. So you have a publisher, might be Amazon, might be Flipkart, might be Facebook or YouTube. So they are publishing some messages through SNS topic. And from SNS topic, what it does is it can send an email notification or an HTTP or HTTPS notification, just like something that you see in the Chrome browser, or it can send you an SMS notification also. And finally, it can do a mobile notification in your handheld devices. So there are multiple notification options that you get, and you can subscribe to people to the appropriate ones in the cloud. So this is how the simplest architecture, or the way to understand how SNS works. So some of the benefits is it is very flexible, and it is global scale. So if your clients are in the US and you are sitting in India, it is not a difficulty. You can configure SNS to deliver the messages across the globe without any hardware in that part of the region. And it supports multiple languages, meaning you can send a notification, or you can create your notifications in a language of your choice. You can use Python, you can use Java, PHP, .NET, whichever you are comfortable with. And as we saw earlier, we can send it to multiple methods, whether it is HTTP, SMS, or email, or Lambda, or mobile also. So the typical use cases are something like a broadcast. So it is an identical message sent to many devices. Say, for example, there is an flash sale for a new mobile, say iPhone X, and there is a discount of 10% or a cashback. So you might want to send it to a lot of people, so that some of them might buy it. So it is the same message you are sending to millions and millions of people. So that is what is called as a broadcast message. Another one is direct message. So in this case, if you take the same iPhone example, you might find that some of your potential customers are loyal to you in your website. So you want to reward them with more discount or more cashbacks or add-on offers. Say if you buy a mobile with me, within the next few hours, you get a screen guard or a battery pack for free. So these are targeted messages customized for each individual users. So you can do that also. And then there is optimized with analytics. Say, for example, instead of sending it to millions of people, you identify few people who are potential buyers for your applications. Then you can go ahead and target those people alone. So now that we saw about SNS, we are going to trigger or send that information to our administration platform called as a CloudWatch. As the name says, it is going to watch over your cloud for different kind of metrics or KPIs, whichever way you want to see it. Say, for example, notify me after CPU is reaching 80 percentage. So the SNS will be used, that is CloudWatch will be used to monitor the EC2 service for CPU, and once a particular threshold has been met, the information will be sent to SNS, and SNS will be sending that email to you as a support team or to a ticketing tool for processing in the downstream level. So when we're talking about a CloudWatch, it is a monitoring service for all the resources that is running on AWS. It can collect and track metrics, it can monitor log files, and you can use it to set alarms as well. Say, for example, you can use CloudWatch to monitor your latency in your website also and trigger alarms based on that. So it's a simple monitoring service in on-premise world. If you are used to Tivoli monitoring or HP Open View, those kind of Netcool, those kind of tools you're familiar with, it is very similar to that, but a little bit more powerful and scalable than some of those services, in my opinion. So this is how a CloudWatch architecture or a data flow will look like. So let us say CloudWatch is encompassing all your AWS services, or in other words, it is a cross-cutting service which is integrated with other services, and you have AWS resources that support CloudWatch. So what happens is you are going to create logs or create a monitoring mechanism saying that measure my CPU utilization and measure my status check field. In other words, see whether my server is online or not. So these are the things you are configuring in CloudWatch to monitor using the log files. So the next step is once it will check the logs and it will create a metrics. In this case, what I'm showing is I can add a custom metric, which is my application page view count. If for some reason my page view count is increasing using logs, I want to trigger event so that my auto scaling can start another server. So you can use the default metrics like CPU utilization and status check failed, or you can use a custom metric also using other log files and other scripts and integrate them with CloudWatch metrics. So now that is done, and you can use your available statistics. That is, CloudWatch itself will digest this data, create your graphs, and it will present you in a nice little dashboard and the AWS console itself. So that is what, whenever you click on the monitor tab or the metrics tab in any EC2 service or an auto scaling service, the graphs that you see are nothing but a CloudWatch measuring those metrics and creating those graphs dynamically for you. So that is what it is shown here. You can use the AWS Data Management Console, or you can feed the data into a Splunk kind of a platform or a ELK or Elasticsearch and create your own dashboards. So there are a lot of dashboards. I just gave a couple of examples. Your client might want something similar. So now we have got the metrics, we have got a platform to see those logs. So the next step is to create alarms, because we compare these logs and the statistics saying 80% is where I want to maintain my CPU, and the metrics are saying that the CPU is at 90%, I want to trigger an alarm. So I can configure the alarm in CloudWatch, and once an alarm is triggered, I will send either an SNS notification or send an auto scaling request, or sometimes I might want to reboot my EC2 itself. So it is not necessary you have to take all the three actions. You can take a combination of some of them or all of them or just one of them. Depending upon your customer, you will take the appropriate actions in CloudWatch. So once again, we saw this SNS architecture, something similar earlier. So CloudWatch will identify an alarm situation, and it will send, once it is sent to SNS, you can use any of those four notification services that we already saw to take some action or inform the appropriate people. And if it comes to auto scaling, it might either scale in or scale out or maintain the health. Meaning sometimes you want to reduce the number of servers, or sometimes you want to increase the servers, or sometimes you want to just recycle a server because the underlying hypervisor has gone bad. And when you are triggering an auto scaling group, it is just that the hypervisor has gone bad and there is no auto scaling. I remember there are certain instances which allow to be rebooted whenever there is a problem on the underlying hypervisor level. So you can trigger and recover, or stop that instance, or trigger and terminate instance also. So any of these actions are possible once an alarm is triggered. So that is how a CloudWatch service is used. So the finally CloudTrail we are going to see now. CloudTrail is nothing but a record of all the actions that is happening on your account. Think of it as a logging mechanism for logging in, logging out, somebody creating an RDS instance, somebody creating an EC2 instance, somebody creating a bucket, adding something to your bucket. Anything that is happening in your account, CloudTrail will have a log entry for the same item. So why this is required is sometimes compliance requirements are there for certain industries like finance and healthcare. They want to know what is happening in your environment, who is doing that, what time they are doing it, and what was the action taken, what was the request that was sent, and from what source IP they have sent it. So these are the things that has to be demonstrably shown to the auditor, saying I'm collecting all this information and taking necessary action when something is going wrong. So if you are working for such a client and they are requiring some kind of a logging mechanism which satisfies all these requirements, CloudTrail is a service or your best friend in that case. It records almost everything that is happening in your account. And as of now, Amazon has made it free for the first 7 days of rolling logs. So today, if I go to log into my CloudTrail and I have configured a default log group, or in other words, an S3 location, what has happened in the last 7 days, I should be able to see it from the logs, whether I created an S3 bucket or ELB or Route 53, everything that will be in Amazon log will be there. And Amazon has made sure that for the log storage for the last 7 days, it is free, and it automatically overwrites or recycles the logs for every 7 days. So only the last 7 days log will be there for free. It doesn't mean that it will not store more than 7 days, but if you want to configure it for a long-term storage, you have to go and customize it and ensure that the logs are staying for more than 7 days. Otherwise, they get log rotated after 7 days. That is what a CloudTrail is for. So this is the in-depth detail of what is captured in CloudTrail, who made the call, when they made it, and what was the call about, whether it's a service creation or a deletion, or what were the resources impacted, whether it was related to EC2, whether it was related to DynamoDB or Route 53, and where the API call was made from. It is, so what is the IP address they made the call from. So these are the broad level of information that is collected by CloudTrail and stored it for each and every call that you make. So this is the simple workflow. If you move from left hand side to right hand side, the usually typically what we do is we use the AWS management console, as it is shown in the top. We use the console to log into our AWS account and create requests for acting with resources. If you remember, sometime I use my AWS CLI to create my VPC or to create some Lambda scripts, those kind of things. I sometimes use my CLI. And there are also people who completely interact with AWS using SDKs, that is some programmable language like Python or Java or Node.js. So all of these things are either for deleting a resource, creating a resource, or modifying a resource. So in all these things are going to feed into my AWS account. So they are making some kind of an API calls. Let us say in this case they are going to modify an EBS volume. So CloudTrail will identify what is the change, and it will store the logs in my S3 bucket. And you can use CloudTrail to trigger an alarm also if that is not a desired action. Say somebody deletes something in your account which they shouldn't have deleted. So you can use that notification to create a CloudWatch alarm. And sometimes people use that for troubleshooting when something has gone wrong also, to identify whether it's a malicious user or an accidentally somebody deleted it. So going over the logs, we should be able to find out which IP address, whose IAM role or user ID was used to delete it. So this way you can prove it, saying that it was the malicious user or somebody with bad intentions within the account. So just another way of clearly showing what it means by troubleshooting, saying like an user Tim was created at 1:30 and somebody deleted a user called Sue, and then somebody created another account called Cat at 3:30. So just an example of what can be the troubleshooting actions in certain scenarios. So deleted, and once the delete is identified, CloudWatch is notified. Once CloudWatch is notified, an alarm will be created. That alarm will be sent as an email or SMS to mobile or however you configure it. And based on that, you might say some recovery actions. So this is another view. The imagery is it might be complex if you are not able to follow it. Leave it. It just shows that a lot of services are monitored by CloudTrail and they are fed into SNS and logs. So it helps in a lot of things. CloudTrail. It allows you to do security analysis. It allows you to do compliance. It allows you to do troubleshooting and track the changes in your security groups also. So we saw that some time back now, how to what it used for. And finally, accounts can send their cloud trails to a centralized account. What it means is, let us say there are 2 or 3 departments in your company, and all of them have their own AWS subscription or account. So what you can do is you can collect the CloudTrail logs from all these accounts and put it into a centralized security team owned account, where they will do the analytics and find out what is happening in your account. In case something goes wrong, they can take the remedial actions. So this way, these logs cannot be tampered with. Even if one of the account gets compromised, the logs will be in a separate account and they will not be having access to the centralized log location, and still you will be able to trace it down to the original user of or original actor who made the delete or modified some resource. So this is also possible. You can move the logs to another centralized location. So some best practices, always enable it in all regions. Why that is said is, it is possible to enable CloudTrail in only some regions. So let us say that your client is based out of US and you are focusing all your energies on US and configured CloudTrail for US region. And for some reason your account got hacked and the hacker was using a Mumbai region and doing a lot of activity on your account, but you're not monitoring it actively. Within a few hours, you will get a few $1,000s of bill in Amazon. So it is always good practice to monitor all the regions, even if it is for negative validation. Just create the monitoring rules so that you can know what is happening in your other regions also. And enable log validation, or in other words, make sure the access logs for those logs are enabled and encryption is also enabled, and monitor them using CloudWatch logs. And last but not least, centralize your logs. Do not keep the logs in the same account, because if an account gets compromised, they can compromise your CloudTrail logs also. So move the logs to a centralized location so that it can be secure from other people. Okay, there is another service that I would like to spend a few minutes on. It is called a simple email service. That is, we saw how SNS will send an email. So underlying, it uses another service called Amazon SES, called simple email service. So you can configure it to send millions of emails from your account. So it is not necessary always you have to use SNS to send emails. You can just go ahead and start use this service to email. What it typically used for is, let us say I am having a small training center and I want to invite a lot of people to my training center for giving a demo about AWS. So I need to send hundreds and hundreds of emails or millions of emails if I'm sending it to the world, if it is online. So in those cases, I cannot use a Gmail or a yahoo.com, because they will block me if I try to send millions of emails. So in those cases, what I will do is I'll come to SES, configure my outbound outbound service, and then I will say these are the email addresses I want to send, and this is my domain key, so that my emails are not sent to junk mail or spam, and it will be delivered in the inbox itself. So Amazon has tied up with a lot of ISPs so that Amazon emails are landing up in inboxes and marketing emails are not sent to junk mail. So that is where SES service comes into picture. It is also part of your application group of services. That is what is shown here. So any bulk transaction emails, it complies to a lot of ISP standards because of a lot of spam issues. A lot of ISPs ban IP addresses from sending bulk emails. Even if you try to do a bulk email in your Gmail account, Google will block your account for validation pending. Then you need to explain to Google why you are sending so many emails, and they will probably ask you to buy a professional email service rather than using your personal Gmail account for sending bulk emails. So SES is your best friend in this case. Once again, it allows you to control the kind of SMS, emails that you are sending, what time you are sending, and whether the retries has to be done, or what should happen if the message is sent to email address which is not existing. Should they retry it, or just drop those messages and keep a count of those messages as well. It gives you good statistics of successful and failed messages. So I'm going to stop here. This is the demo that we are going to see tomorrow. We are going to set up a CloudWatch alarm. We are going to set up a EC2 server. We are going to set up an CloudWatch alarm. We are going to stop the server or terminate the server and see whether the alarm is getting triggered or not. And we will try to see if we can stress the server and see if we can trigger an CPU alarm notification as well. So that is what the demo is. We'll see that tomorrow.